Just so you all know, anybody can turn these. I went over to a friend's house and we talked for 20 minutes and he has turned out some beautiful lanterns. Anybody can do this. This is not hard. If you can take a square piece of wood and make it round, you can make these lanterns. The hardest part of making these lanterns are getting, come on, be difficult, is getting the hole exactly in the center of the block of wood. This block is 2 3/8 inches, as close as I can get it to 2 3/8 inches. The way I find the center is I put a bed point in my drill press and I bring it down until the point makes an indent in the wood. Then I turn it around, and this is against the fence. I turn it around and bring it down again. When the 2 points are in the same plane, that means my drill is going to be in the center of this block of wood. Then I just make it 2 inches from the end. I put a stop on my drill press so I can repeat the 2 inches. The hardest part about this whole thing is getting these exactly centered. Let me show you what happens if you don't. We'll pass this. No, that's not it. Oh, Lord have mercy. Well, son of a gun. That is it. Okay. Yeah, okay. You'd think this lantern looks pretty nice. But take a look at the piece of wood that goes with the holes, and you will notice that they're not exactly the same. 2 of them are thin, and 2 of them are thicker. And that is because the hole, when this was drilled, was not exactly in the center. That's the whole key to making these things. Here, go ahead. You can take a look and start looking at that and see them. Oh, hey, wait a minute. Let me have that one back. Here it is, right here. I had it in my paw all the time. Okay. So what you do is you get yourself a block of wood. 2 3/8 by 2 3/8. I like 6 inches long. You can do it with about a 4, maybe a 5 inch. But I like 6 inches long because it gives me plenty of room to work with. I'm not so worried about cutting on the end of the, hitting my chuck on the end, okay? Take your block of wood after you've got your holes drilled. The end without the holes, okay? This is the whole end. The end without the hole is the top of your lantern. The holes are the bottom. And I just mount it in the chuck, or between centers, not in the chuck. Okay. Now, I for some reason had my practice pieces all set up that I was going to bring, and guess what I forgot? Of course, I left them home. The easiest thing, all you're going to do is take your spindle roughing gouge. You're going to zip your jacket up. You're going to remember to put your face shield on. And here we go. Turn the right way. That's about where I'll go. When you go to turn with a spindle roughing gouge, you got make sure you're on your board, make sure you got it on your tool rest, make sure that you're bracing it against your body. Stand off to the side so that you can take your body and, I call it dance, you can move side to side, back and forth. Keep your shield on while you're doing it. Now, when you get down when you're turning, where the holes are, you can see I've already started rounding this a little bit. When you get down to where you're close to being round, where the holes are, be very careful. Reduce your pressure that you're pushing in with your, not a skew, with your roughing gouge, okay? 99% of the people, John Solberg does not. 99% of the people will be pushing on this, and you'll actually make a concave where these holes are. So you want to be very careful when you're turning that, okay?
Jerry?
Yes.
What size are the holes?
The holes are 1 inch. When you drill the holes, in the handout, it says that. When you drill the holes, you want to go more than halfway through, okay? Because that'll smooth it out on the inside of the holes, where the holes are. It does cover that on the handout. Like I say, if anybody needs handouts, let me know. Okay, so we're going to go back to this. Somewhere around there. This is close. Okay. And while I'm rounding it, I am not looking where I'm cutting. I'm looking on this back side. Okay, we're not quite there yet. Oh, Mike, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was still here. Okay. We're real close to being rounded, but not quite. Remember, when you're going to adjust your tool rest, shut your lathe off. Yeah, and I know I'm not holding it at the 45-degree angle, I know. I didn't say I was the best wood turner in the world. I didn't get it done. Okay. That's what he's talking about. You hold it at 45 and just cock it off just a little bit and you'll get a much smoother cut. It's almost like a shearing cut. Is it a shearing cut? I don't know. Okay. Yeah, plain, yeah. Since I don't like skews, and you want to be careful, and you don't want to overturn. And it still needs a little more. You don't want to overturn this. You're going to drill a hole in the end of it that's 1.5 inches. So this is going to turn down to real close when you cut into it to be 2 inches. So you want to leave as much wood on the rounded piece as you can. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Not quite yet. That should be about it. Yeah. Okay. You're not supposed to do that, see? You're not supposed to put it there. Believe me, I keep trying to remind myself of all of this stuff. Okay, we got to turn down to where it's round. Now, we're going to lay out what we're going to do with it. Okay? You can make a storyboard up. Yeah, okay, everybody know what a storyboard is? You guys probably don't know. It's a stick that you put where your main lines are going to be when you're turning on this. I didn't like a storyboard. I got one that I liked. One thing you want to kind of check is to see if the end is pretty square. These are pretty doggone square. Okay, so I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to make it parallel with the bottom end. And I'm just going to start making where I'm going to put lines on this thing. And this is just my design, or what I find pleasing. If you want to do something different, knock yourself out. This is where you can show your individuality and your creativity. Once you get your lines on there, of course you want to make it so that you can see them all the way around. When you're going to cut a recess right with the holes, you want to try and get the width of the cut on each side of the holes close, so it's symmetrical. Okay, it just looks better, believe me. Okay, now we got to finish this up. That's your layout. When you're doing this, high, low, whatever you want. So you're going to not leave this end, you're going to cut in here, you're going to leave this ring, you're going to cut in around the holes, you're going to leave this ring, and you're going to cut in. You make a mistake. Ask me how I know. I have made mistakes. There's nothing you can do that is going to screw this up so bad that you can't recover. You just change the design a little bit. Okay? If you screw up and cut the wrong place, okay, you just make the center bigger and put your lines on the other pieces. Okay? Now you get to use a skew. This is my skew. Most people call it a parting tool. I call it a skew. Okay? Remember, high, low. And these lines are not carved in stone. I already can tell you, I don't like this one. It's too narrow. So I'm going to change it a little bit as I cut it. They're not carved in stone. Not even carved in wood yet. But you can change. It's just whatever you feel like doing. Your people are creative. You're an artist. I'm not. You're going to do whatever you feel like doing and do it that way, okay? So we're going to go ahead. Now, remember, you don't want to cut lower than 2 inches. Nope. Yep. Take your caliper and set them for 2 inches. After you do 20 or 30 of these things, you'll get to know where 20, boy, I hate doing that. You'll get to know where the 2 inches is, and you won't really need them that much. But you can't go much past that 2 inch because you're going to be drilling an 1.5 inch hole in the bottom. That doesn't leave you a whole lot of extra wood. Okay? Again, you just come in. That's close. Just right there. Like I say, after you do a bunch of these, you'll get used to it. Now, you're not going to do this whole thing with your skew. You're going to cut. I just cut 2 rows on each side, and then I'll come back and take out the middle with a bowl gouge. Okay, that's pretty close. Just clears on all of them. Okay, we're going to do the last one. Okay. You got all your ridges cut. You can do this with a roughing gouge. I find that it's a lot easier to use a bowl gouge because you're going to be cutting this out. Again, the same warning. Be careful not to push down because you're going to have these holes and there's no resistance there, and you can concave that area around the hole. Okay? Yours sounds different than mine does at home. Interesting. You're close. Again, I'm not looking where I'm cutting. I'm looking at the ghost line on the back side. That way you can get a much better idea of how you're cutting and can see how deep you're going. That's close enough. Now, at this point in time, you're going to decide what you're going to do. If you're going to leave it mounted in this chuck, you're going to go ahead and start your top. I don't. I change out my chuck when I'm halfway through this thing, simply because that's the way I do. I am not comfortable working up around my chuck. Just my way of thinking, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a distance from my last cut, and I'm just going to take some of this wood, just haul it out, get rid of it. Okay, that's all I'm going to do. Now, there's one more thing that you got to do with it in this position. you ought to cut a tenon on the end. We're going to take it off of the centers. We're mounted between centers right now. We're going to take it off the centers and we are going to mount it in the chuck. So I'm going to cut a little tenon on the end of it. It's not imperative that the end be perfectly square to the end of your block of wood. If there's a little wobble in it, that's okay because it's not going to go very deep into your chuck. Okay? Okay. I know that my chuck, it goes between 1 and 7/8 and 2 inches. You've now done everything on this end. Okay, this is everything that you're going to do for right now. Good. I could have cut my dovetail a little bit deeper. In this case, it isn't going to matter. Go ahead. You've still got the center end, the end with your center point. Put it in your chuck. Make sure that you've got it good and tight. Now, don't go cranking on it forever in the world, but make sure you got it good and secure. One of the things that I am teaching myself to do, as soon as I put it in my chuck, I find my number 1 on my chuck, and I put a number 1 on the board. So if for some reason it comes out or I have to take it out, I can always put it back in the same exact place. Okay. Any questions so far? If you got a Jacobs check, great, use it. If you don't, try and use a drill press. I step my drills in. I used to do 3 of them. I do 3/4, an inch and a quarter, and then an inch and a half. Then I got these little carbide tipped cutters. And I go straight to an inch and a quarter this way. And when I put them in, I leave just that you can just see a little bit past the end where it decreases and goes to the stem. And I always do the same thing. That way I get repeatability. Yeah, I get to repeat. Okay? When you're going to turn with a drill, make sure you turn it down to about 550 RPM, someplace around there. I believe they say don't go over 600, and you'll burn the drill up real quick. Okay? There we go. I normally do not like people that use gloves on lathes. This is the only time that I will go around using a glove. You want to hold this. If for some unknown reason it comes free and loose, you better have a handle on this thing. And plus you're going to use the emergency button to shut it off. If you don't have a glove on and it starts spinning in your hand, guess what happens? You get a very sore hand. Ask me how I know. No, don't ask. Okay. Now, you don't want to just ram it in there as fast as you can go. You want to turn nice and even and slow. I have mine hooked up with a vacuum system so that when I'm cutting, I know exactly where I am and exactly all of my chips and everything are being sucked up into my vacuum. Now I use the readout on the, what's that called?
Quill. Quill.
Quill, thank you. On the quill. I know the bottom of my hole is 1.5 inches. Right now I've drilled in 1 inch. And I'm coming up real close to 1.5 inches. Now you really want to start turning slow. Can you hear the difference? You're getting right there where that hole is. You want to go slow. You don't want to just ram through. Okay, it broke. 50% of the time, the hole that you're cutting out will break. 50% of the time, it won't break. You got to back your drill out, you got to shut everything down and take your little fingers and work them in there and get that little hole piece out. Okay? Now, I go ahead and I run this back quite a ways. Then, I go ahead and I push it in until it just starts making noise. Can you see this, the end of the Jacob's chuck where the wood is? If I come up and just kiss that wood on the hole that I just drilled, it will clean out up on the top a flat place where you can glue the mirror, and I talk about that in the handouts. So you just put it back there, and now real slow, you hear it starting to knock and all that good junk. You just keep going in slow. Okay, here it says it's cutting great. I have just reached the end of my quill, or the end of my Jacob's chuck. So I'm now going to back it out. Okay? If you look in the end, you all can't see it because you can't look in, but if you look in the end, it'd be nice and flat, because the drill has gone in far enough that it's cut you a beautiful flat space, and you can glue the mirror in there. One of the things that I found out just recently, you take a mirror and you glue a mirror in the top, and it will reflect almost twice as much light. Okay? Take your 1 1/4 inch drill out, set it on your bedway. You're not supposed to do that, but do it. It'll act as a heat sink. It'll take the heat out of your drill. Heat dulls drills. So go ahead and just do that. You're not going to leave it there and do a whole heck of a lot. I went and got a 37 millimeter. I tried using 1.5 inches, and 1.5 inches just doesn't work. So I went and I bought a 37 millimeter, once again, the carbide tipped. Where to put that?
Where can you get those?
I got them on Amazon. I just went on Amazon, put 37 millimeter and the carbide tipped in the search bar, and it came right up. Same thing when I was looking for the 1 1/4. You don't have to buy a whole set. I think they were $11 or $12. Somewhere around there. They weren't that terribly expensive. I mean, I'm the world's cheapest guy, and they weren't that expensive to me. Okay, tighten it up nice. Bring this back up. I have this set at the same place. The quill is sticking out 1/2 inch. Always do that. That way you know exactly where everything is. You've got an exact measurement. There we go. That was one pat too many. Okay. On a flashlight. When you're turning, you want to be able to look in this in 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, whatever you feel comfortable with. You want to be below the holes. That way you have a ledge that you can push your tea light up against. Okay, it'll give you something that you can secure it against. So what you do, be that way. And you start turning in. Okay, I'm 1/2 inch in. That puts me right about there. I'll go a little further, and then I start looking with my flashlight. And if you get the flashlight just right, you can see the drill. And that's 1 3/8 that I've gone in. Let's take a look. I want to back it up just a smidge. Shut it off. Back this little puppy off. Well, I was seeing something else because, boy, I got a long ways to go. Okay. Well, that's why you stop and check.
All right, Gary, why didn't you just measure the depth to the hole and then adjust that and use that distance to drill?
This is the way I discovered I could do it, okay?
Fair enough.
Yeah, if you got 20 other ways to do it, go right ahead. And that's close. That's close. I'd like it a little more. Now, realizing that the closer you get that lip, the more light, the light bulb itself is going to be showing. And I've got a good 1/4 of an inch. Yeah, a good 1/4 of an inch. And I want to cut it down just a smidge more. That is a scientific term, smidge. Okay. Okay, that's close enough for government work, more or less. Now, if you make a mistake, and you just go ramming in there, and you get in there, and you just go right past that little lip, so what? You're going to position the light bulb. It just means you have to do a little more work positioning the light bulb and putting however you're going to hold it. A drop of super glue, medium, a drop of hot glue, or a little bit of, you can put blue tape around it, and that's the hardest one because you got to really work it in. But if the tea light doesn't like to stay in, I put a drop of glue. You got to be careful and not put it where your on-off switch is, and you don't want it to interfere with the little place to get your battery out. Do not put your fingers in it, in this hole, with the bloody thing running. Very bad. Roll up a piece of 150. I turn somewhere around 800 RPM. At an angle so you don't cut that lip. And this will clean up 90% of your inside of your hole. It will make you a flat piece up here on the top and get rid of all those little fuzzies that are up there. And it'll get rid of all the little fuzzies around the lip that you're going to put your tea light against. Okay, we got any questions about that? Do I need to, am I explaining it all right, or do we need to go somewhere more? Just don't put your finger in there. If you want to wrap it around a wood dowel, go ahead. You put your finger in there, you're likely to break your hand, break your fingers. Okay? Don't do that. When it stopped, you can do that. Okay. And you want to look inside, and yeah, there's a few little pieces around, but heck, that looks pretty decent right now. The way things are, I'm pretty happy with that. Now, and I've screwed up the way I do things. Big deal. It doesn't really. I should have cut my pieces that I'm going to burn earlier, but it doesn't matter. This is what I'm saying. You can't screw this thing up. Put your live center back in. Guess what fits in that hole that you drilled? Very nicely. Your live center. Okay? Well, that's true. I never thought of that. Since I got one, I figure everybody's got one. Okay. Now, like I say, normally I would have done this earlier. I have a little three-way tool. I don't know what it's called anymore.
Point tool.
Point tool, okay. And I like to put in you turkey. Yeah. Okay. I made a mistake. Gee whiz. You can't ruin these things. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You just go back, take a little bit, fix it, and then you're going to go right back and doing what you were doing earlier. Hopefully not repeating the same error. It's close. See? Nobody's going to notice that 1/32 of wood that you took off. Fancy tool. A lot of people have these samples that you can get from Home Depot. I just use a burning wood, piece of wood. Go ahead and burn it however well you want to burn it. Normally you would do that in a nice air-conditioned room because it stinks. If you have someone who you're not real fond of, as soon as you do that, you hand it to them and say, here. 9 times out of 10, they'll go right here, and they won't hold on to it very long at all. I can guarantee it. Okay? Well, I said you didn't particularly appreciate the guy. Yeah. Okay. At this point in time, normally I would go ahead and I would use these little strips. Since I've got this all mounted up again, I'm just going to use my big pieces of sanding. By the way, this is on sale. I think it's at Woodcraft for $19. They're normally like $35. I just got my flyer and happened to notice it. I'm not sponsored by Woodcraft or anybody else. Okay. Just go ahead now, and you're going to sand this. You're going to sand the wood, the pencil marks that you have. You're going to come in here, and this is the hard part. You're going to sand this nice and smooth. I sand 1/2, turn my paper around so I got the fold, and serve the other half. If I use the other pieces of wood, I just put them on there and bear down, and it makes it nice and smooth, okay? Depending upon how anal you get with your sanding, for the longest time I cut little strips so I could sand into these cuts. If you want to do that, more power to you, okay? I didn't do that, okay? This is something that is just nice to look at. This is not something that's going to be kept in the Smithsonian. You're just going to take this and enjoy this. And if there's a little extra piece of wood there, you're not going to care. Okay. 150. I'll go down, normally go to 400. We're just going to go to the 240 tonight because I don't want anybody getting upset with walnut dust. Sand your big pieces, get them all nice and smooth. And guess what? You're done with the body. We've only got one little piece to go yet, and that's shaping the top. Okay? This is where I change my chucks. If you're real happy and feel secure working with this chuck and working that close to the chuck, more power to you. I don't have any problem with that at all. Knock yourself out. Do what it feels good to. You know? I'm not, and since I'm the one doing the demonstration, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it, okay? Seven. I normally put mine right there. Okay. It has been brought to my attention. They don't know what the heck that is. I don't know what it is. It's a chuck. It's a 4-jaw chuck. But I don't know what they call these things. Spigot? Like a water faucet spigot? Okay.
I've also seen them called pin.
That's what I called it. I didn't know what else to call it. Okay, I've got these spigot jaws mounted on there. And I have an adapter put on. I have the same exact lathe at my house. So, except I don't have this thing on there. Okay. Take this little piece. Remember, you've still got your center marked. When you had this mounted and you were tuning on centers, you've got that center marked. So you can still put the center on your live chuck. So you put this on here very carefully. Bring up your tailstock. Now, this spigot, instead of being a 90-degree turn, curves. So you can't push this all the way up against your the back of the jaws. So I bring it out, and that's nice. I moved the damn thing. You turkey. Okay. I take and push it against my live center there, and I start to turn. And I tighten this. Now somebody, I don't know who, somebody is going to ask me, how tight do you tighten it? Okay? I don't know who, but somebody's going to ask me that.
How do you tighten that?
I don't know, John. You make this as tight, you tighten it to just before it breaks. Okay? If it breaks, you've gone too tight. Okay? You don't really have to make it that awful tight. Okay? You just want to make it nice and snug. When you turn that on, that puppy turns true as anything. There's no wobble, well, maybe just a smidge, but there's no wobble in that thing. It's turning great. At this point in time, your creativity is all that's left to do. And I can see by looking in that one that needs a little touch-up. Don't do it that way. Yeah, this one can use a little touch-up. I didn't smooth that one out when I was cutting it. Okay. How's that look? Yeah. Okay, just like that. You see something that you want to change? Change it. Okay. Now, this is the top of your chimney, your lantern, your tea lantern. You do whatever you want. You can put a Christmas tree on top of it. You can put just nice little Chinese hats on top of it. You can put a little itty bitty, whatever you call that, cylinder on the top of it. Basically, it's whatever you feel like doing at this point in time.
What if you don't know what you want?
You start turning and the wood will tell you. You know, quite honestly, I've done that. Have no idea what I'm going to do with that end. And I'll start turning and the wood tells me something. So that, to me, that's a true statement. Okay. You don't want to go at this and try and hog everything out in the world. You can use a bowl gouge. You can use your spindle roughing gouge. Anything you want to use, you can use on it. I generally will stick with a bowl gouge. Depends depends if it's Tuesday. If it's Tuesday, I'll use the, no, not necessarily. Anyhow. And you just cut your tendon off. So you're committed now. Okay, unless you want to make another tendon. But you're committed now. And the thing I like about doing it this way, this end is supported, this is supported. You're not, you're well supported? Yeah, well, the piece of wood is stable as all get out. This thing is turning true as all get out. I can't see any wobble in it at all. Okay? So now this is just whatever you feel like doing. There you go, baby. Oh, 8 o'clock.
You have to turn left-handed.
No, my right hand has started shaking. Don't ask me why. I guess maybe I'm getting a little bit old and it has something to do with it, I don't know. My right hand has started shaking and there are times when I can't turn right-handed. I am learning to turn left-handed. Surprisingly, my left hand doesn't shake. Okay? So, you just do what you have to do and it works out. Remember, oh, sorry. Remember, you do not want to cut, you don't want to cut uphill. So, you'll notice, at this point in time, I've got enough wood left there, I can square this up and I can make another point. I can just go and make this a point. Where's Mikey's? Mike just made a point that goes all the way up there. I like that. I think that looks real pretty. Okay? Everybody see that? Okay? This is where it's whatever you feel like doing. And I got nothing more that I can say on that. This is just what you feel like doing. Okay? I'm going to make this kind of simple and just make it a point, sort of like Mikey's was. Okay.
Your center's come out a little bit.
My center has come out? Okay. I forgot to bring my saw tonight. I have a little Japanese pull saw. Just suddenly realized I forgot to bring it. Normally I'll cut this down right to where the point is. You'd be amazed. You cut this thing down to 1/8 of an inch, it's still got support. But you turn this down to about 1/8 of an inch, and then you take your Japanese pull saw and just go zip, 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 and bam, it cuts right off. Otherwise, there's a tendency that you will tear the very last little bit out, sometimes. Okay? I take it down real close. Tonight I'm going to take it all the way down simply because I didn't bring the saw. Okay.
What would happen if you left your point out on the very last part? So you took away your point as you kind of make the last.
That might take care of the issue. Like I said, I'm not the world's greatest turner. My techniques aren't always the greatest. I'm learning and watching and learning as I go along. What I don't do with a tool, sandpaper takes care of a lot of issues for me. Okay? And I'm willing to admit that. I don't always have the exact correct use of the tools simply because of my inexperience. But I can always compensate. I can always adapt and figure out a way to get around it.
It's all the 80 grit gal.
Yeah, well, that's true, except I don't use 80 grit. But, yeah. Anybody got any questions so far?
Yeah, just real quick. If it is wobbling, you need to readjust. How much wobble are you looking at?
That's a subjective thing. If I see it wobbling, I'm going to loosen it up on my chuck. I'm going to loosen it up on my chuck, reposition it, because this is centered, and that hole is supposed to be centered because you drilled it through your center point. If it's not exact, well, hey, that's the way it goes. I have had ones that have been a little bit of a wobble on it, but just a little bit. And I've gone right ahead and kept turning them. As I said, you saw me take off a 32nd of a piece of wood here. Nobody's going to notice that. And if you've got just a little bit of wobble in it, maybe a real good wood turner would notice that. But if they don't like it, I don't care. You know? And I'm not trying to be flippant or wise about it. This is your creation. This is what you're making it. You're making it as best you can. And if other people don't like it, gee, that's a shame.
They make one themselves.
Yeah. I'm making something that I'm going to take pride in that I've made. So that's just me. Right about there is where I began to get a catch. And that was when it went whee! So you guys stay awake. Now you can see, right now I have the option of making like a two-deckers out of this thing. I would just go in and clean up this edge and make it 90 degrees and then finish out the top. Okay? Again, this is whatever you want to do. Now be real careful when you get down to that point, because you're turning this way, you're going at it this way. This bottom ring can hit that piece of wood and you won't be happy. Okay?
That's what a detail gouge gets.
That's true.
Very nice.
If I was going to make a second tier, like I was just telling you how I'd square it up, I'd use my little detail gouge, and that's what I do. And it works beautifully. Now I've got that thing down to what? 3/16, and it's still got plenty of support there. I see you laughing back there.
I just said after.
No, not you, him. Okay.
Face you and down.
Here we go. Oh, no. We ain't done yet. We ain't done yet, but I can take this bloody thing off. Okay. Again. You turn this thing down. Oh, in fact, I should do a little better there. Yeah, we'll just...
Might want to take your light center off.
Yeah. Can you still see the scar in there? I don't know. No. After you do it one time, you'll want to make sure you do it, and that's true. Okay. I just take my 150. Now the end of this is not done perfectly. There's a little twist on the end of it. So I'm just going to sand this until I get a nice sharp point. Then I'm going to come back up here. Yeah, that's not going to sand out very nicely. Okay. I'm going to do something I don't normally do. Okay, I've got a little, I don't know if you can see it or not, but right here there's a bad spot. Okay? I hope that's what I call a pull cut. Okay? You just come in here and you take about 99% of what you want out. Now, your sanding will take care of it. I sand somewheres 800, 900, 700, somewhere's around there. And if your fingers get too hot, you're pushing too hard. And you can look at the wood, you can see this dark spot. I'm not sanding there. That means that it's, there was a divot taken out right there, and I'll sand it until I see that go away. It's gone away slowly. And it might be an imperfection in the wood. That's the other thing you got to look at. Yeah, there's still a little. Well, you know, I said I don't use that 80. It's 100, not 80. Yeah. There. Got to use the right tool. And you will notice that I'm being somewhat careful. This is not the greatest and most supportive system that you can have while you're sanding or while you're turning. So you want to be a little bit careful. You don't want to hit it real hard. Yeah. Okay, that's good enough, we're doing that. Okay. Someplace around this time, you could put sanding sealer on it and polish it with sanding sealer. You want to make sure that you've sanded it properly enough so that that it looks real good. But if you look, can you see inside?
Tilt it up, is what you can.
Tilt it up.
Tilt it right toward the camera.
That's above you.
There you
There you go.
Okay.
go. There you go.
Okay. If you look in there, you see that flat spot. That's what you turn with your 1¼ drill. That's where you're going to glue your mirror. The mirrors are $120 for $11 from Amazon. Okay.
The tea lights too.
The tea lights come in, some of them, the self-timing ones, the ones that you turn on will stay on for 6 hours and then automatically shut off for 18 hours and then come back on again for another 6 hours, bouncing back and forth. They're $11 for a dozen, maybe it's $12 for a dozen.
You know, on Amazon.
On Amazon, look up tea lights and 1.5 tea lights. Okay, we drilled a 37 millimeter hole. Sometimes that 37 millimeter hole is perfect. And you got, can you see the lip inside? Okay, there's a lip in there, and that's what you're going to push your tea light against. Ah. That one not coming out. I'd still put a little drop of glue on it, but it's fitting perfectly. And you can put that in there, and now you're still going to have more light because you got that mirror glued into the top. Okay? That is how I go ahead and make them. Now, finishing, all I've done when I finish these things is I will put sanding sealer on it, and then I take it to the Beal buffing system and I put carnauba wax on it. I use just the carnauba wax. I don't use the other three. Walnut is so doggone porous, I don't think it would do very well. The same with the oak. So, where's that other, this one? No, that's Mike's. One of the, that little one that's got layers of wood, that's all I put on it, was just the carnauba wax. If it wears off after a while, you just take some floor wax, Johnson floor wax, or some more carnauba wax, or some beeswax, put on it. But this is what you're going to do. Now, you have had some options that can come along as you're doing this. You can drill a hole in it if you want to hang it from a hanger. I've had a terrible time finding the hangers. Good luck. I bought the last 6 that Michael's had. Okay, I didn't know that, but I bought the last 6 that they had. If you want to just set it on the counter, I got this kind of light. I've also got no, I'm lying to you. I don't know which box is which. Yes, I do. This is. There we go. This one, the multicolored lights They say are an inch and a half. They're an inch and a half and 3/1000ths. Okay? They don't come out. And they will sit there and they will change colors. I think that's kind of cute too. They do not cycle time-wise. So when you turn them on, you got to turn them off. They say the battery that you can get 200 hours. As I say, putting these in, the lights in, the 3 ways I've found, putting a piece of blue tape around it, which is a pain because you got to work the blue tape in. Putting a drop of CA glue, but you got to be careful and not get it near the battery or the switch, or putting a tad of hot glue in there. That's just me, that's just Mike, go ahead.
Look at the bottom of mine. That's another option.
I don't see it, I'm sorry. Come up here.
Wire in there.
No, there's not.
Oh, somebody's been.
When we were at your place, we put the wire in and the wire works.
Yeah.
But how many people go around making wire clips? Okay. Anyhow, any questions? I give them away. I've been told that they sell for somewhere around $30, 25 to 35, depending again on the wood. Mikeys are beautiful with the glue up in the wood. They're beautiful. And 35, I wouldn't be surprised that he could get that. I do very poorly at making things to sell. I think since I've been a member of this club, I've sold one item. And that was my rolling pin, and that was because, well, I sold 2 of them. One to you, the blank. I sold a rolling pin to a gal, and I quoted her a price that I thought nobody in their proper mind would pay, and she paid it, and she loves it. But normally I don't sell things. I make things and give them away. Cool. Okay? I want you to know, thank you. I want you to know you cannot screw these up. Okay? As long as you start out with a square block of wood and drill the holes in the center. That's it.
Thank you, Gary.